I'm pretty unfortunately ingrained into the kind of fiat monetary system with crowd health and all the
Yeah.
regulations that have to go around it. And the fact that all these rent seekers are holding on to people's money in between our transactions for days, and it takes forever to get anything done. And then I'm sitting here on Lightning and I want to pay somebody on Lightning and it's immediate. And I'm like, man, this is such a better medium of exchange than our current fiat financial systems. And I think it's going to take a while for people to get there to actually replace things in their budget that are fiat and convert them to Bitcoin. I'm not saying, sell your stack. What I'm saying is take more of your dollars and turn them into Bitcoin as a medium of exchange so that we can use them in a more circularity type of format. And ultimately, what I want to do in healthcare is I'm talking to hospital systems. I'm saying hospital systems, you should accept Bitcoin. Here's all the reasons why. Right. And then I'm talking to Bitcoiners and I'm saying, Bitcoiners, you should join Crowd Health so that we can get enough on the demand side and the supply side so that we can make Bitcoin the medium of exchange within healthcare. And it's a $5.6 trillion industry in the United States right now. And I feel like if we can get some of these big hospital systems and enough Bitcoiners and enough doctors to accept Bitcoin, then we can create circularity within healthcare. And I think that goes a long way of getting people comfortable with having Bitcoin as a medium of exchange in all aspects of life. So, I mean, that's what I'm really trying to push is Bitcoin circularity in healthcare. And I think that's one of the more circularity that we can get within the economy using Bitcoin, I think the better we're going to be. I think that's going to be the catalyst for the next big boom in Bitcoin. Once people can see that, oh, I can actually use this. And oh, it's easy. Oh, and it's even better. I get my money right away. I don't have to
Mhm.
wait on banks. I'm doing end of the year giving right now, and my bank has a limitation on how much I can transfer in any one month. And I'm sitting
Yep.
here going, right? What?
Wild.
How do you cater to people when you limit the amount of money I can transfer out of my account? And then they're like, oh, well, you can fill out this 4-page document with about 200 different, inputs to transfer money. And I'm like, God almighty. If I had Bitcoin, I could do it like that. And so it's these types of things within our fiat monetary system that Bitcoin figures out. I think that's the next kind of catalyst for growth within Bitcoin is the medium of exchange. And I hope we'll get there.
Yeah, and you obviously alluded to the Cash App thing and Jack Dorsey and Square and what they're doing. It's massive, and it goes back to the chicken and egg. What comes first? Is it the consumer pressuring the businesses, or is the businesses saying, "Hey, let's pay me in Bitcoin"? So, again, to your point, I think it does take time. It takes education. Just one day after the next. Do you guys have at Crowd Health? Is that something that you guys are integrating or can integrate, or how does that payment process work when people go to doctors?
We are aggregating doctors who have said, hey, I'm willing to accept Bitcoin. We use that also as a proxy for, their worldview in terms of
Yeah.
how they operate their practice. I think it's a pretty good proxy. And so these doctors don't typically, force medications on people. They don't force vaccines on people.
Mhm.
They are all about kind of personal autonomy. And so, we think that if we can aggregate this group of doctors, and we're even I've had multiple conversations with one of the top 10 hospital systems in the country, and to say, hey, would you guys accept Bitcoin? And they're actually considering it. And so, if we
Wow.
can get some of those health systems to say, yeah, we'll take it, make it easy on them to accept. And then the back end infrastructure for us, right now it's built on, unfortunately, a fiat monetary system because it's the only option that we have. We do have it also, ready to go, built on Lightning. We're using, Breeze and their SDK, and it works beautifully. Right now it takes us about 6 days to get money from one member of our community to another member of the community. That would be turned into 2 seconds,
Wow.
immediate, almost immediate, using Lightning. And so we've got it ready. I think, one of the problems that we have is that, and people don't understand this, is if I were to give you Bitcoin, I were to gift you Bitcoin, you now own my basis. So, if I give you Bitcoin and I got it in 2021, where I think at the low, I got something at 19 or something like that.
Hmm.
Right. So if I'm going to give you my Bitcoin, what Bitcoin am I going to give you? I'm going to give you the lowest cost basis. because that's what the one I have to pay most taxes on. But now you own my cost basis. And so, if I give you $1,000 worth of Bitcoin that I bought for $200, you now have a tax of $800. You're taxed on $800. It's just wickedly inefficient. And so what we need is some regulatory help to say, hey, these things shouldn't be taxed for these small amounts. That's one I think in Senator Lummis's Bitcoin bill, she put in there that, we shouldn't be taxed on this little stuff because it really limits our ability to use, Bitcoin as a medium of exchange.
So I didn't know that when you gift someone the Bitcoin, the receiver is the one that gets taxed.
The receiver is the one who gets taxed.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that.
So if I give you $100 worth of Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
and it's my tax basis is 20, and then you go sell that Bitcoin for $200, let's say, you're paying $180 worth of
Okay.
taxes. So,
So there's one more
40% on the
step.
180 or whatever it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So a
so
gift, and then if you went and sold it after that, that makes sense. Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so it just doesn't
Okay.
make any sense. It doesn't make any
No.
sense to give people, Bitcoin, or at least transfer my Bitcoin to them. Right. I mean, I could buy
Right.
Bitcoin
Right.
today, which is what I do with my family, right? I just,
Yep.
set them up a Strike account or whatever, and I put
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin in there, and then you got it, right? And so that's the way that or I have them set up a Strike account, but the same difference. Like, and so, that it's just stupid in some of the way that we get taxed by the IRS. And I think that somebody who's got a lot more money than me should fight that because it is one of these, it wasn't legislated. It was an IRS rule, and I think under, some of the SCOTUS things lately, that's one where I think somebody could really go after it and probably win that case.
Yeah, and it goes back to like the American Revolution. It was one of the I think one of the only ones, if not the only one, that was like a top-down revolution in a way, where it was like the leaders basically saying, "Hey, we're not doing this anymore." Where like everything else is bottom up. So to your point, it's going to be this. Like I'm a subscriber to the, as Jeff Booth says, of if it stays decentralized and secure, then we therefore should, if we believe that, as Bitcoiners, and we do think it's going to do what we espouse it's going to do, and stay as this network, this hard network built on energy, proof of work, and all these things, then we know it should and will defund these entities over time, because it changes the humans inside, because it's changed all of us, right? It's going to have that
Yeah.
same effect over time. So to your point, time probably does a lot of the heavy lifting, right? Like start removing these things, and slowly over time that it happens.
I think time, unfortunately, is going to do really heavy lifting. And what I mean by that is we are in a death spiral in our country, I believe. I truly believe that, in terms of the debt racking up and the dollars being printed and things like that. I mean, again, bring it back to healthcare real quick. I mean, we got this thing right now where we're dealing with these Affordable Care Act subsidies, which is basically, giving people between 400 and 700% of the poverty level these subsidies to go and buy healthcare. Well, this was introduced during COVID to give people some kind of help during a really hard time. And, they were being laid off of their jobs. People weren't working. They weren't getting paid, all this kind of stuff. Like, and so I think it had at least the intent, I believe. I believe the intent was probably good, of saying, we want to help people. However, once you start giving people something, you can't take it away. Like, it's nearly impossible to take it away. And so what we're seeing right now with these subsidies is, people are putting on X and things like that. Well, this 60-year-old woman was paying $300 a month, and now she's going to have to pay $2,000 a month. Like, how can you do this to us? And unfortunately, these subsidies that were, established back in 2021, I think, have just masked the fact that our healthcare system is totally screwed up. And the Affordable Care Act actually isn't affordable, but the government has decided to give people something. Now they're trying to take it away. It was supposed to be during a really hard time for a 2-year period, and it got extended once. And now it's politically almost impossible for them not to extend it again, because we're going into midterms next year, and people will remember that. And so it's like this vicious cycle of giving, not being able to take back. And so when you're not willing to take back, to reduce your spending during this period of time where we're having massive deficits, like the only logical conclusion is that the United States will go, in essence, bankrupt, and the dollar will be worth nothing. And the only thing we'll have left is Bitcoin as a true, great, stable, I think, relatively stable store of value. And I hope ultimately a medium of exchange. I mean, that's kind of the macroeconomic lens that I look through, and I just don't see there being any way to correct it. And that's why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin over the period of time, because there's just no way in hell this is going to get changed. I mean, for a period of time, I had a little bit of optimism because Elon was going to come in. I thought he was going to be able to do it. I was naive, in that.
Hopeful.
And he couldn't.
Very hopeful.
And he couldn't. So there's just no way this is going to reverse course. There's no way. And so there's no way that Bitcoin is not going to succeed. From my perspective, man, that's why I'm so confident in the fact that, like, my Bitcoin, which is, I hold 80% of my liquid assets in Bitcoin. I held 20% just to pay the, normal day-to-day bills. But 80% of my assets are in Bitcoin, liquid assets. I have a house and stuff like that. But and that's why I'm just so confident in it. Even when my wife is sitting here being like, what are we doing holding 80% of, I'm just like, this has to work. I don't see any other way for this not to work. And so that's why I'm just very, very confident in the long-term prospects of this. So, but it's like, I'm just like, I have total conviction in Bitcoin being like the right place to have 80% of my money right now.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.